Welcome and welcome back. It's another amazing day in paradise. I am so excited to be here with you today. Um, I'm just excited. I mean, it's day four. It's day four of the Let's Talk series. It's day four of our birthday month of miracles. But I'm excited that I'm just up and being able to do this and fulfilling this call. And so it's been awesome, and I'm just excited. Right now, it's going on 4 o'clock in the morning. I've actually been up for about 2 hours, about actually at this point it's been about 3 hours that I've been up, been doing other things, and so I did want I did want to mention. I hope y'all don't get tired of seeing this. This is like my house dress that I put over that I put on when I'm doing working around and doing stuff, and so. I hope you can appreciate seeing this every day because it's very likely that you will. Anyway, today I want to talk about the motto for Love Enterprises. The motto for years has been building the village, raising the child, based on the African proverb, it takes a whole village to raise a child. And many people will think that that has to do with young children. But in this environment, everybody is a child of God. Everybody is somebody's child. And so we don't discriminate, we don't age discriminate. If there's a child that needs to be raised, regardless of age, they're going to be raised. What's important about that is that so often when we meet people who they consciously are, unless some people are having a subconscious conditioning, a moment in their subconscious conditioning, which is not always pretty. And so the idea is that um, we want to help people to connect with their inner child that is um, suffering, to heal them from their suffering, to be compassionate to that inner child, so that we can have more encounters with the conscious adult as opposed to the subconsciously conditioned child. And so that's where the parenting aspect comes in. Now, in this journey that my son and I have been on through the perils of poverty, a couple of other things have come up as objectives for our motto that go along with this concept of building the village, raising the child. And one of them is to bring dignity to poverty. Um, the experiences that we have had, it is shocking because I think most people, when they know our financial situation, they, too many people, when they know our financial situation, will dismiss us. And it's almost as though you have leprosy. You might as well be on an island out in the middle of on Molokai. Actually, it is Molokai, in one of the Hawaiian islands where they banished those who had leprosy to live on your own. And you feel like you're in this isolated world a lot of times. Granted, people have their lives, but um, there's also this element of having to beg all the time for what you need. Asking is where you ask, you get what you need and you move on. But when you're constantly asking for the same things, um, then it is this element of begging. And so it's time to bring some dignity to poverty, to bring in the element of choice, to help people feel dignified about the situations that they're in. Another aspect is love, compassion, and mercy. And those three words are the foundation of the parable of the exceptional Samaritan for me. Love is what the conversation was all about because it starts actually with this conversation between Jesus and the lawyer, and he wants to know who his neighbor is after determining what after disclosing that the great commandments were about loving God and then loving your neighbor as yourself. So he wants to know, well, who's my neighbor, right? So the foundation of that scripture, of that collection of scriptures is love and what love looks like. Compassion is the word that is used to describe what made the Samaritan do what he did. When the priest and the Levite walked by this person, we don't know their actions or the reasons for their actions, and there's no need to judge. But when it talks about the Samaritan, it talks about how he had compassion. And compassion is a two-part definition. It is not just this feeling of needing to, of seeing somebody in need, but having the second part is having a great desire to alleviate their suffering. And that's where mercy comes in, because mercy is, for me, the act of alleviating the suffering. I think there's many of us who have compassion on people, but we don't feel like we have the power to act. And so what's important is that we move forward when we can by being merciful. And the concept of mercy is really kind of tricky, because the conversation between Jesus and the lawyer ends with Jesus asking the lawyer, which of these three were a neighbor to him who had fallen, who had been wounded. And the lawyer says, he who showed mercy, right? And so Jesus says, go and do thou likewise. And I think what has happened is a lot of people have taken, oh, well, I'm going to show mercy, but I'm going to show mercy in the way that I want to show mercy. Well, when somebody wants a home, being merciful to them is not giving them food. Being merciful to them is not giving out clothes. Being merciful to them is putting them in a home, because mercy is subjective. What's merciful for you may not be merciful for me. You know, listening to my child sing might not be merciful for you when you hear them. Just saying, just as an example, I'm being, comical in a way, but it's mercy to me because I get to hear them. It's just one of those things, and so you can't put your version of mercy on somebody else. And a lot of times that's what happens nowadays. We see people in need and we say, oh, well, they're asking for money. And we say, well, let me give you some crackers, or we offer them something other than what they're asking for. And that's really unfortunate that we have become such a hardened nation that we don't offer mercy based on the needs of the person who is in need. But that's exactly what the Samaritan did. And so the results of doing that, building the village, raising the child, bringing dignity to poverty, and again, remember that poverty is not just external, poverty is internal too. And so people who are experiencing depression are often in poverty because they are internally impoverished because of the way they feel about themselves or their lives, right? And so when we bring dignity to that, we're having more and more conversations on mental health and mental illness, and we're bringing dignity to that so people don't have to feel ashamed about how they feel. And so when you do those things, when you build the village, raise the child, bring dignity to poverty, and you have that love, compassion, and mercy. And I'm just not talking about, of course, I'm not just talking about L.O.V.E, more especially L.U.V, as I explained yesterday. Then the results are that people will naturally move from poverty to prosperity. They will begin the internal work to move from internal poverty to internal prosperity, and then move from external poverty to external prosperity if they haven't achieved that first. So some of the things that makes me think of are the scripture that talks about train up a child in the way he should go and he shall never depart from it, or something along those lines, paraphrasing it. Because when that's the case, it's that what's interesting about that proverb is not that that's direction, but that's actually what happens. And so that's why parenting is so important. It's a scripture about parenting. So and that's where the subconscious conditioning comes in. When you train up a child, you are subconsciously conditioning them on how to behave, and they won't depart from it unless they have had a complete shift in their consciousness that forces them to act contrary to the way they've been subconsciously conditioned. And I understand this because I live it. Technically, we all do, because the information we've been brought up with, that our parents or our grandparents or whoever our guardians were instilled in us, it's going to meet opposition in the world. It has to. And so if it was worth standing on, we stand on it. Or if we had a community that surrounded us, that we stand on it. And that is whether it's good or bad. And so, um, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go any further into that. The next thing I want to talk about is how the Lord works from the inside out. Um, the world works from the outside in. So the world would take people out of the slums, but Christ takes the slums out of people, and then they take themselves out of the slums. And that's basically the same concept of poverty to prosperity, moving people from poverty to internal prosperity, and then moving there. It's like that. You can take the girl out of the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out of the girl type of thing. Well, the idea is if you take the girl out of her mental and emotional ghetto, then she'll take herself out of the ghetto itself and move on to poverty she will move to prosperity externally after she's done the work internally. And so that those are important. They're very, very important. That is the foundation. Um, those are the objectives, excuse me, of Love Enterprises, because we have so many in the world that are just hurting and don't even realize it. And some who are hurting um, and don't acknowledge it. And it's time to make a change in our world and give people a freedom that they need, that internal freedom. My work, the reason why I'm called a CBB is because there's a scripture in Matthew that says something along the lines of, a candle was not meant to be put on, it would have a bushel on it. It was meant to be put on a mantle to give light to the whole house. And so I personally have done a lot of bushel blasting. That's what I call it. The things that have been placed on me by those who instilled their values into me, um, and they no longer serve me, I've had to blast those bushels away. And I can't define anybody necessarily. Definitely, they were my parents, but I mean, they've only been a part of my life for a short period of, I shouldn't say they haven't been a part of my life for a short period of time, because that's not true. They're both still living. So they both have still instilled their values in me, or have at least shared them with me, right? But there have been so many people that have come along and had things to say and presented their point of views and stuff like that. And it's been my choice whether I accept that or I deny it, you know? And so not everybody has the power or feels they have the power to deny something that doesn't agree with them, or to accept something that they know is better than what their current existence is. And so, excuse me, this journey that I've been on is just about giving people power to be able to live and to be free. And that goes back to a quote, which I hope I have on this paper because I'm not going to have time to look it up. But I believe it is. Yes. I might have said this already earlier, and that's okay if I did. But it says, happiness depends on being free, and freedom depends on being courageous. And in order to be courageous, you have to confront yourself. I added that last part. But it's by Pericles, Pericles. He was a Greek statesman. Anyway, this has been more rambling than my other ones, and I think it's because usually I get up and the first thing I do is record my video, and I didn't do that today. I did a bunch of other things. So I'm feeling a little tired. So I apologize if this has been rather more rambling and unorganized as the other ones, but I hope I've made my point clear. And I'm going to end this one today. It's not going to be long, and I just want to say I love you. I L.U.V. And I hope you enjoy creating your amazing day, and let nobody take that power of choice away from you. Peace, y'all. Until the next time.